Custom Gold. My name is Randall. Today I am going to be creating another video in a series called Check It Out. This is where I take an image and I manipulate in some way using Corel Photo Paint. In this case I'm using X8, and I usually use one image, but in this case I'm going to use two because I think they're both going to be fairly quick. In this one I'm going to get rid of this dude and put my character. In the next one I'm going to get rid of this woman and her shadow and put my character in there. So this should be pretty interesting. When you're trying to get rid of a person, one of the biggest challenges that you meet is there's not enough background that's similar to the exposed background to cover up the person. So you have to take little bits to cover them up slowly one by one and then try to make it look natural. In this case you have a plethora of background. You can just use this image here, you can even use the rectangle, and just go all the way up to the person. Control C, Control V, Control R to copy, paste, and get rid of the mask. And you can just slide it on over. And then you take the erase tool, make it a little bit bigger because you want it to blend in gradually. You don't want anything to say, wow, this photo has been doctored. And you definitely don't want the building in the background to be adjusted. So there we go. It looks great. Now I'm going to grab my character, who is Mr. Purple. Control C to grab him. Oops. Paste them. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have him jumping up in the air. But first I'm going to grab the background image to resize, resample. Image to pixels, grab the largest side, change it to 800 pixels. This is just a size that I like to work with, so you can choose any size you would like. Okay, so because I put Mr. Purple in first, and then I resized the image, I also resized Mr. Purple. So if I paste him again, this is the size he would be. But I like this size, how it is now. So I'm going to have him jumping up in the air, and I'm going to use this tool, and I'm going to size up his head about this big. Then I'm going to use this tool to move this mask straight down to the ground to show his shadow. And then I'm going to go back to the tool, so I get Control C to copy, Control V to paste, Control R to get rid of the mask, except that I'm on the wrong layer. I'm on Mr. Purple, and there's actually nothing here in the Mr. Purple layer. So I'm going to go back to the background, Control C, Control V, Control R, and I'm going to adjust the brightness and change it to something dark. And then I'm going to Effects Blur, Gaussian Blur, because it should be a little bit blurry. And then I'm going to do Control M and delete that. I'm going to try something else. I'm going to do Control C, Control V, Control R, and the image is already a little bit blurred now. So I'm just going to Gamma, and I'm going to make the Gamma a little darker because I don't want it just a black shadow. The shadow should be a darker version of the color that you're using. So I'm going to make the Gamma, and then also on top of the Gamma I'm going to use a little bit of darkness. That's too much. So this is with nothing, and I'm going to add a little bit more to it. So you can still see the little bit of reddish, but you can also see that it's a shadow. Control down to keep that shadow. Now him, I want to Control C and Control V, put another version of himself on top of himself. And then I'm going to adjust brightness and make him darker. Here I wouldn't use Gamma. I'm just making him darker so I can erase it with the erase tool. Now I want to hold down the Shift key and click and drag it down and resize it to make it the size I want. So I want it a little bit smaller than his face. And then I just erase a little bit. Control down, and he's done. So you can see a little bit of, he's getting a little bit of light, a little bit of sun in his face. Now the last step, I'm going to take the letters and I'm going to create his name, Mr. Purple, and it always leaves it at the same font, the same size, the same color you used last. I keep white, but I'm going to change it to 16, or 18 rather, and then I'm going to change it to Show Card Gothic. And if I put it up here, I think it's a little bit too close to the top and too distracting. So I'm going to put it down here. And again, I want a subtle color. I don't want it to stand out too much. So I'm going to do Control M around Mr. Purple, hit the background and copy the background in the shape of Mr. Purple. Control C, Control V, Control R. Grab Mr. Purple, one to the right, one down. Grab the image, adjust brightness, and I'm probably going to make it darker, but not quite that dark. And the reason I do this is so you could also see the sand behind it through the letters. And I want to make it subtle so you could see it, but it doesn't take away from the image. And that's it. He's done. Now I'm going to go on to the next one. We need to get rid of this lady and her shadow. So I'm going to use a freehand mask. And you want, if you're copying other backgrounds, to use to get rid of your current background or something in the current background, you want as close to the image as possible, because the more further you go away, you can't really tell, but it might get darker or lighter. So you want it as close as possible. I'm going to Control C, Control V, Control R to copy, paste, and get rid of the mask. And I'm just going to move this mask over here and use the erase tool, make it larger, and just go along the edge to make it look like a nice transition. So now I'm going to do Control down, and it's okay if a little bit of her sticks out, because we're going to go from the other side as well. So we're going to grab this, Control C, Control V, Control R to copy, paste, get rid of the mask, and we'll bring this down. And we're going to erase some of this as well. It's very hard to see actually, so blending is easy because you can't tell where it's not blended. So this is 100%. Control down. So now I'm going to take my character, Mr. Purple, Control C, and I'm going to paste them here. Then I'm going to Image, Resample, Pixels, and 42 is the larger side, 800, and OK. Mr. Purple gets shrunk as well, and this is a good size for him. If I made him regular size, that would be too big in this case for what I want to do. So Mr. Purple, I want him to be underwater, so I'm going to use the rectangle mask, go about halfway, Control X to cut, Control V to paste, and I'm going to grab the bottom half. See, I could just get rid of the bottom half and it looks like he's in the water, except this is very clear water. You could see underneath the water. If it was darker water, yes. But in this case, I want to see him, and the bottom half is going to be a little bit blurry. So we're going to use Gaussian blur, and that looks like a good blur. But let's try it again. Effects, blur, Gaussian blur. Now, the further you go, it just dissipates completely. So we'll start off with nothing, and we'll slowly add a little bit of blur. That looks good. And we're also going to Effects, Creative, Smoked Glass, and add the color of the background. And we could also increase that and add more. So this is none. I usually have the same amount of blurring as I do tint. So I think this is a good match right here. Because it's very clear water, you should be able to see him. There's a little line spacing the two of them apart, which would make sense. That would happen when at the top of the water there'd be like a little space. So I'm going to take him, Control C, Control V, and I'm going to turn him and turn him into an underwater shadow. So this part is already blurred and changed to being underwater. This is already underwater, so I'm going to make the rest of them underwater. And when you use these effects, it keeps the same that you just used. So I could just go with blur, and I have the exact same amount of blur as I just used on this. And I can use the creative smoked glass and use the same amount. Now underwater, we don't want to see that little gap, so I'm just going to grab the top part and pull it in so you don't see any gap anymore. Now the bottom half we don't want to adjust for the sun, the light. The light is different underwater. This is what it looks like with the light underwater already. But I do want to change the top part, so I'm going to do Control C, Control V, and I'm going to make it a little bit darker. Maybe we don't want it that dark. Make it that dark. Okay. And in this case, I'm going to have the sun coming this way. And we're going to do the same for his body. Control down, and now we just add the letters, Mr. Purple. It's already in my font, already in my size, already in my color. And we can put Mr. Purple in the clouds this time. Control M, background, Control C, Control V, Control R. One to the right, one down. And we're going to make this one a little bit lighter to go with the clouds. And that's it. So this is 100% full size is the image I get, and I'm going to put it on my page, my Mr. Purple page in almost social media. And here is the other one at 100% with his shadow above that he jumps. This character tends to jump high, and you can see his shadow. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something from it. Please subscribe, like, leave comments, questions, concerns, feedback, constructive criticism. I need all that in order to be able to continue to create these videos and also to improve the quality of these videos as I move along. So thank you so much.